Welcome to the video about structure and mechanism of mind in 1700s. After talking about the form and matter of mind last time, we will talk about how it works. The works of scientific philosophers after Descartes, such as Hobbes, Adam Smith, and Newton, are undoubtedly related to understanding the nature of abstract concepts in the sense of Aristotle's four causes. They all sought to understand the underlying causes and principles governing our world. Hobbes, 1588 to 1679, was a political philosopher who sought to understand the nature of human society and the role of the state in governing it. He believed that humans, matter for society, were inherently selfish, form, substance, and needed a strong central authority, gravity, to keep them in check. He believed that the state's purpose was to provide security and stability for its citizens and that its power should be absolute to ensure that it could achieve this goal. Hobbes' work was published with the title, Leviathan or the Matter, Form, and Power of a Commonwealth Ecclesiastical and Civil. He studied Aristotelian matter, form, and power, like Newton's force, for efficient and final causes of political organization. Adam Smith, 1723 to 1790, on the other hand, was an economist who sought to understand the nature of wealth and how it is created and distributed. His most famous work, The Wealth of Nations, argued that a free market, where individuals pursue their self-interest, would lead to the most efficient allocation of resources and the greatest overall wealth for society. In terms of Aristotle's four causes, Smith's work focused on the efficient cause of economic production using self-interest of individual as form and matter. He believed that the market's invisible hand, driven by individuals pursuing their self-interest, was the force like Newton's that brought about economic growth and prosperity. Smith used the term the invisible hand in History of Astronomy, referring to the invisible hand of Jupiter, and once in each of his The Theory of Moral Sentiments, 1759, and The Wealth of Nations, 1776. The posthumously published essays on philosophical subjects, A History of Astronomy down to Smith's own era, plus some thoughts on ancient physics and metaphysics, probably contain parts of what would have been the latter treatise. Isaac Newton, 1643 to 1727, was a physicist who sought to understand the nature of the physical world and the laws that govern it. It ended up influencing abstract fields like mind. His most famous work, Mathematical Principle of Natural Philosophy, laid out the laws of motion and gravitational force, which became the foundation of modern physics. He sought to understand the nature of matter and how it interacted with other matter using invisible force to produce the physical world we observe. In terms of Aristotle's four causes, Newton's work focused on the material and formal causes of physical phenomena and used the concept of force to expand other two causes. Mind beyond three-dimensional space and time. Meanwhile, the human mind has always been a topic of interest and inquiry for philosophers. After Descartes identified the eternal mind, Spinoza and Leibniz studied the nature, matter and form, of mind, body, and everything in the world as discussed in the previous video. The following generation of philosophers, such as Hume, 1711 to 1776, Kant, 1724 to 1804, and Schopenhauer, 1788 to 1860, was particularly interested in how the mind perceives the external world and how it understands itself. Developing the idea of Descartes' mind is not completely independent from the body, David Hume was an empiricist who believed that all knowledge was derived from experience. He argued that the mind was a passive receiver of sensory information and that our perceptions were a product of our experiences. Hume also introduced the concept of causation, arguing that we infer causal relationships between events based on their constant conjunction. He believed that we could never know the true nature of causation, only that it was a product of our experiences. Immanuel Kant, on the other hand, was a rationalist who believed that the mind was active in shaping our perceptions of the world. He argued that the mind has a priori categories that structure our experience of the world. These categories are not derived from experience but are innate to the mind. Kant believed that the mind was responsible for constructing the world we perceive, appearance, mimesis, representation, phenomenon, and that we could never know the true nature of reality, presumed, noumenon, beyond our perception of it. Strongly influenced by Newton and scientific discovery, Kant believed that there were fundamental principles that governed human reason and understanding, which could be discovered through philosophical analysis. Consequently, he said that God is required for the universal rule of mind. In his book titled Metaphysical Foundations of Natural Science, 1786, Kant concluded that physics is trustable because it is based on pure math. However, chemistry is less trustable since it uses observation and experience. In his critique of pure reason, Kant argued that human knowledge was structured by a set of a priori categories, or concepts, that were necessary for any experience to be intelligible. The key idea in Kant's concept of priori synthetic judgment that combines different concepts or ideas to create a new understanding or knowledge. In particular, Kant argued that such judgments were necessary to form our knowledge of the world because they go beyond what can be derived from pure reason or pure experience alone. Reason and experience must be synthesized. He is believed to be attempting to make a law for material world and mind. Arthur Schopenhauer was a philosopher who was heavily influenced by both Hume and Kant. It is also believed that he was influenced by Oriental philosophy. He believed that the mind was an participant in shaping our perceptions of the world, Kantian view, but that our perceptions were ultimately flawed and misleading, Hume's influence. Beyond Kant, Schopenhauer introduced the concept of the metaphysical will as a mental force influenced by Newton's physical force, which he believed was the fundamental force behind all of our actions and desires. He argued that the will was constantly striving for satisfaction but could never be fully satisfied due to the limitations of our perception and understanding. Schopenhauer believed that the pursuit of material goods and sensual pleasures was ultimately futile, as they could never fully satisfy the will's demands. He advocated for a form of asceticism as a means of escaping the suffering caused by the will, and believed that art and contemplation were the highest forms of human activity, as they allowed for temporary escape from the world of representation and contact with the underlying will. Influenced by Hume's idea, lack of self, he made our mind doesn't have a form, instead, the mind has forces to attract and associate experiences into a certain knowledge. This view influenced by science about our mind opens doors for Freud, Nietzsche, and other contemporary thinkers. Thank you for watching.